On this episode of the Rebel Health Tribe podcast, available at rebelhealthtribe.com, we welcome Dr. Garrett Smith from drgarrettsmith.com.
I have a client who had lots of health issues, and she was in it, and she said she was taking the meds, and she needed the money, so she was doing the trials at the time. She was kind of holistic, but she needed the money. So she's going in, and she's telling him all these side effects. She's trying to be honest, right? And the doctor who was doing it at the time says, if you keep coming in with all these side effects, I don't think you're going to be able to continue doing these trials. So I'm going to, so you might want to come in with fewer side effects. And so she got the hint. And what she did, this was great, they would actually test her blood for the med. So you couldn't fake, not take it and then go in. She would shave off a tiny little bit of the medication tablet, take it the day she was going in, so she'd have it in her bloodstream for the test. So she could stay in the test, but she wasn't getting all the side effects. It's all just a game that they were playing. But I thought it was terrible that they were going to kick her out for having too many side effects because it would have made the med look bad.
That happens more than when I learned about that practice and then read a bunch of instances of it and how prevalent it is and how that's just kind of the way it rolls, the whole thing is a joke.
That's coming up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rebel Health Tribe podcast. I'm Joe Rignola with Michael Roseline. What's up, Michael?
Hey Joe, been a while.
Yes, it's been a while. It feels good to be back. We've got the new little one who is draining us of whatever energy we had left from the 4-year-old that joined us 4 years ago. So yeah, things are good. We're tired and I'm wired. I'm jacked up on coffee and bourbon, so things are good. How's things with you? How's the puppy?
Puppy's good in the crate right there. She's probably 3 times the size she was the last time we recorded a podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, well, today we're psyched about this show. We're joined by Dr. Garrett Smith from drgarrettsmith.com. What's up, Garrett?
Just ready to have fun with this with you guys.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's for folks who may not be familiar with you, just give a little background about what you do and why you do it.
Okay, well, to make it, to not make it too long, I'm a licensed naturopathic physician in the state of Arizona. Have been in the past licensed in Washington and Oregon. I used to be a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Personal training and strength coaching led me to nutrition, which then led me to naturopathic medicine. So now I kind of do all the things I do. I kind of specialize. I've become a specialist in clinical nutrition, which is nutrition in the treatment of disease. I do mostly hair mineral analysis as my main tool. I can easily use blood tests, but as many people who have gone into the kind of the functional medicine realm kind of know, is the blood test can get kind of out of control cost-wise very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I found that the hair testing was my best method to reach the most people in terms of helping them with their nutrition and getting it back on track and fixing calcium levels and all of that stuff. So, and then also locally, the hair analysis stuff I do distance mostly, and it's great. I have people in South Africa and Australia and New Zealand and all that stuff. And then I do laser therapy locally to help people with joint pain, back pain, that stuff. So yeah, I've been doing the laser therapy now for 10 years, and the hair analysis thing is more like the last 4.
Is that the cold laser?
Cold. Well, yeah, we're using a class 4 laser if you're familiar with it, which is so hot laser, if you wanted to call it that, is more like the laser surgery where they're actually cutting tissue. Hot laser is specifically damaging tissue. Cold laser is what I was doing before. The class 4 lasers, like the light cure, and that's what I have. They're kind of in that middle realm where, it can heal a lot faster. It penetrates a lot deeper because it's a lot more power. We're talking like 10, 15, even up to 25 watts, which is a lot of power. If you were to not pay attention and stay on one place too long, you could do a little bit of tissue damage with it. So it's kind of in that gray area between cold and hot. But it's, with, as the saying, like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Like right. My old cold laser, I could just set it and forget it, put it on people, let it go, and not have to worry about ever having any problem with it. And now with these lasers, you got to be on, you got to be paying attention, and but it's. I've seen it fix things on my wife and my brother and my mother and things that never responded to other things. A couple treatments with the light cure, and it's just wiped out. So it's amazing. It's really
it's pretty wild. I was at a mastermind event in October, and one of the people who was there was a thyroid event, but Dr. Kirk Garrett is a chiropractor here, and he's in, I don't know, about an hour away from here in the desert in California. And he had his with him. He had this cold laser with him, and he spoke. It was a thyroid event, but he spoke on using the laser for thyroid, thyroid like goiters or inflammation of the thyroid. And then I told him my shoulder had been bothering me, so he pulled me aside during one of the breaks and had me do these like weird tests and things, and used it on the back of my like brainstem area and then also on my shoulder, and it was maybe 10-15 minutes tops of time spent with him, and it was probably half the pain was gone. And I asked him to explain to me how it worked, and I understood about a third of his explanation. But I'd never heard of it before or seen it, so it was pretty cool. I didn't even know you did that until today.
Yeah, no, I don't on the internet. I don't talk about it much because it's mostly local people.
Yeah.
And we kind of we have an old laser practice, and we have lots of people who just keep coming back to us for that. And the hair analysis took off so much that we couldn't fit in the laser people as well. And as passions changed, my passion kind of changed from the laser therapy more into the hair analysis.
Right.
And that
seems evident because you're like the guru of hair tissue mineral analysis.
I have kind of become that. Yeah, it's really, it was one of those things that when you start doing it, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story of hair analysis. So when I was in med school, this was probably like 2003. I did a hair analysis with, I forget the guy's name. He was a DC ND, and he wrote a book for Dragon Door, which I was into with kettlebells and stuff like that at the time. And it was about hair analysis, and he was taking clients, and so I did a hair analysis through him. I think I did 2, or maybe I did 3, and I saw my numbers on the hair analysis improve. Except the way he did it, which is the way a lot of practitioners do it, is they just, they get the report from the lab, and that has supplements listed on it, and you just take the supplements that are listed. And it's kind of like, just don't question it, just do it. Now, to me, being in med school and wanting to know why am I taking magnesium? Why am I taking adrenal glandular? Why am I doing these things? And he couldn't really tell me. He just kind of said, well, this is what your hair mineral pattern says to do. I was kind of like, well, that doesn't do it for me. And at the time, the bad thing for me at the time, or it could turn be a good thing, I didn't feel that bad. So I didn't feel that much improvement from it. So I kind of just lost interest and didn't want to spend any more money on it. So I kind of let that slide. And then all of a sudden, it came, about 4 years ago, I came across it again. Somebody on my Facebook feed who I'd worked with, actually, I met this woman through Matt Stone. And she on Facebook, she's like, I just got my hair mineral certification from Rick Malter. And I was like, so I started shooting her some questions about it. And my interest was piqued, and I ended up taking the same course from Rick Malter, and then I got into it, and I started learning from Rick about why the things were prescribed and what they were intended to do. And then basically I started seeing reports, and I started reverse engineering. I started looking at the various nutrients that they were using with the various patterns and seeing why they did that. Mm-hmm. And then, looking at the research for things that lowered copper or things like that. And then I test myself every 5 weeks. This haircut makes it great. So it's like the most real-time hair analysis you can do, right? Because I just grow it for 5 weeks. I cut it off almost to the skin, and I have 5 weeks of growth. That is that 5 weeks. So that accelerated my learning curve on it. And one of the things I really enjoy is I love seeing patterns. That's really all I consider myself. I consider myself good at seeing patterns. And that's all hair analysis is. I've actually found times when the lab had some errors in their analysis. Like I see the pattern so well, and I'm like, that lithium is coming up high, like in half my clients, and that's not right because they're not on lithium, and their sodium didn't rise to match it. And what's wrong with that? And so I actually told the lab, and the lab was like, we didn't catch it because it didn't come up on everybody. It only came up on half the people. And I said, I think you have a problem with your lithium, and they fixed it. So that's like my pattern recognition.
Yeah.
So the hair analysis, it just started working, and I started seeing results from it, and that's always what I demand from it. I mean, I'm kind of like, I really take the oath from medical school very seriously. You know, the first do no harm, right? And I mean, some people say it hurts them to cut their hair. You know, they're very upset to lose some of their hair, but that's not really hurting them. And then, you know, we're trying to, I mean, anybody who's been in health long enough knows that nutrition, if you're not dealing with nutrition in today's world, where, you know, the GMOs and the pests, just everybody knows the garbage that's in the food, or they should. If they don't, then they really need to catch up on it. But I mean, they started documenting the decrease in nutrients in foods in like the early 1900s with carrots, and they were saying there's less carotenes in the carrots and there's less vitamin, you know, other things. So if you think 1910, and then I saw a study in Scientific American that showed that in the last 25 years, foods have lost approximately on average 25% of their nutrients, and you start going, well, if you're not getting it from food, where are you going to get it? And if you don't know what you need, how are you going to figure it out? And that's where the hair analysis really came in. And so I started doing things like breaking down the supplements for people into single nutrients, because, well, you guys have had sensitive clients before. I mean, we all have dealt with sensitive people where, you know, you try the supplement you use that always works, or seems to always work, you start having people who can't take it. Right. They don't feel good on it. And I was getting and I mean this in the nicest way, but the people who were almost like rejected by other practitioners because they were too sensitive. Right. And they couldn't take it. They don't know how to deal with it. Yeah, yeah. And so they say, well, you just need to take it to detox. Push through. Right. And I'll get into that if we want to, but sure. I thought, well, why don't we just break these down into individual pieces so that if somebody doesn't react well to something, you know what it is. We can take that one thing out, or we can experiment. I have people sometimes stop everything, and then they add them back in like every 3 days. Add one supplement in every 3 days, and then they know, you know, within that time. Or I'll have them just take one thing away, the highest, I call them the usual suspects. You know, the things that somebody's having nausea, it might be copper or something like that, or they're just not eating enough food with their supplements. So, and then we've gotten into now. This is one of the things I think when people are sensitive to a lot of supplements, I tend to start thinking that they have infections, and here's why. They are typically virus infections, which may have been introduced from vaccines, which is a whole nother story, but let's not get into that right now. So
that sounds controversial.
If somebody takes a supplement that helps their immune system get stronger, let's say, that can stimulate their immune system to start killing stuff, and then they have the quote-unquote die-off reactions. Okay, then if they have a supplement that makes them feel bad, well, that just isn't working for them, then they just feel bad. I would not expect myself or even a client to know which one they were having. Sure. So then the only way we can figure it out is by taking things away and seeing what happens. And then if you introduce something and they just immediately feel bad, that's usually a given if they just don't get along with it. Yeah. If you introduce them, like, but you're saying that could be an infection, like certain infections, like certain nutrients, like copper or something like that. Yes. Oh, yeah. So something could be stimulating the infection, to giving the infection more power, if you will, and then they feel worse because it got more power. Or you could be in a certain way winning and causing die-off, and then they feel worse. Right. But it takes somebody who knows the typical presentation of die-off versus the typical reactions to a certain supplement. And there's always the people who are the unique, rainbows who they have the totally abnormal, unseen before reaction to a supplement. And you just go, okay, that's your reaction. And so one of the things I do differently than other doctors is I'm just kind of like, if you don't get along with that supplement, we don't take it. Yeah. We don't push through. If it's detox, so the dose makes the poison, right? Right. So if they are detoxing, if you lower their dose of something that is detoxing them or causing die-off, there should be a corresponding reduction in their die-off or their detox. Right. And that's also how we can titrate them up and figure out what's the right dose for them. Or maybe they don't do it yet. Maybe it's too strong. Maybe their liver and their kidneys are not getting rid of stuff fast enough. And we could see that at, let's say, if they're breaking out a bunch, if they're having rashes and zits and stuff like that, that would tend to mean that their liver and kidneys are overloaded and it's coming out through the skin. So we can back down so the liver and kidneys can handle it. So it's really, I do most of this through email. All my follow-ups are through email. I mean, I do consults on Skype and phone, but the email is how I do my follow-ups, and we can usually, within a couple emails, we figured it out. As long as they tell me what they're taking.
Yeah, right.
Some people forget to tell me that they're on 6 other supplements from other practitioners or that they put themselves on, and I never get to see that and tweak it.
That happens all the time.
All the time.
I'm shocked at that. Not even in the first consult. Like if they're not listed in the intake questionnaires and like up front, that's one thing. Like that happens all the time, and that could just be like, oh, I forgot to write that down. But I've had it to where I'm in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th time I've talked to the person and nothing's making sense, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And they're like, oh, I take this and this and this and this and this. Like, what the hell? Or somebody with headaches tells me the 5th time I've talked to them that they've had 4 concussions in their life.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like these things that, and I get it because like we live in this bubble where we know the right questions to ask and we know like what we would want to know from them, and they don't know that stuff. But yeah, I just was recently blown away by an instance of, oh, by the way, I'm also taking these 11 supplements.
Yeah.
2 months into working with the person.
Right.
Wow.
I just had a woman who got pregnant, and she's like, I can't sleep, and then she's like, but she was like, I might be pregnant.
That's kind of a detail you might want to. Well,
she was just like 3 days overdue, and she's like, I'm going in for a test, and I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me that. We'll just wait for the test, and we'll see. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, she was pregnant, and we went, okay. So these things, yeah, I'm working on a questionnaire of asking people, tell me everything you're taking, meds and sups, mine or otherwise. I just make sure that people know that I don't get upset at people for if they want to go see another practitioner while they're seeing me. It's not a problem with me. I just ask them to tell me what they got put on. The nice thing about being an ND with the schooling that I've had is, I was trained in acupuncture. I was trained in, homeopathy. I was trained in herbs. I was trained in nutrition. And so I may not be the best at all those things, but I can look at something and go, that might be causing a problem, or maybe we don't take these together. I mean, I'm always sitting there. Somebody's got somebody's got symptoms. I go, well, do you know that this med has all those symptoms listed? Why are we worrying about the supplements when all of a sudden it might just be a side effect coming on from this supplement you've been taking, or this medication you've been taking for a year? Yeah. One of the concepts that I understand that a lot of people don't is that the theory that a lot of symptoms from medications are actually simply nutrient deficiencies caused over time by that medication.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's why it takes 6 months or a year to show up, and that's why they're so confused, is because I've been taking this for a year.
Right.
How could it cause a side effect now? Because you finally hit the threshold of
depletion.
Deficiency.
Yeah.
How do the medications cause deficiencies?
How? That's not something that's really studied, but one of the things I'll just go and type into Google to look is, how do they cause it? It could be the body.
I know they do. I was just curious, like the mechanism. Like, do they block receptors for certain nutrients, so then it's like a functional deficiency, or do they block absorption or the ability?
Does the medication require certain nutrients in order to work? So
or that it depletes it.
I mean, the idea that like pharmaceutical companies would spend money trying to figure out how their meds are hurting people is
true.
That's
probably not going to get to the bottom of that.
But when you get into it, it could affect absorption. It could affect, it could block receptors. It could use more to do it. Either way, usually, like if we see something that's causing a B12 deficiency, one of the first things we might think is it's affecting intrinsic factor. It's affecting stomach acid levels. Stuff with B12 is one of the biggest ones. You start looking up nutrient deficiencies. From medications, and B12 is on like all of them. It's just always there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
taking a lot of antacids, that type of thing would ultimately deplete B12. Was probably the big one.
And everything else.
Yeah, that's one of the things I get into right away. Is I'm like, you've got these symptoms. This symptom may only happen in 2% of the people who took the med in the trials, but if you figure 2% showed up in the trials, it's probably actually 10%.
Yeah, because they're running that trial for 90 days or even 6 months.
And they take people out of trials who are having reactions.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I had
that person doesn't count.
Well, don't count that.
A quick story about that. I have a client who had lots of health issues, and she was in it, and she said she was taking the meds and she needed the money, so she was doing the trials at the time. She was kind of holistic, but she needed the money. So she's going in and she's telling him all these side effects. She's trying to be honest, right? And the doctor who was doing it at the time says, you know, if you keep coming in with all these side effects, I don't think you're going to be able to continue doing these trials. So I'm going to, you know, so you might want to come in with fewer side effects. And so she got the hint. And what she did, this was great. They would actually test her blood for the med. So you couldn't fake, like, not take it and then go in. She would shave off a tiny little bit of the medication tablet, take it the day she was going in, so she'd have it in her bloodstream for the test. So she could stay in the test, but she wasn't getting all the side effects. So she kind of, you know, it's all just a game that they were playing. But I thought it was terrible that they were going to kick her out for having too many side effects because it would have made the med look bad.
That happens more than I can. When I learned about that practice and then read a bunch of instances of it and how prevalent it is and how that's just kind of the way it rolls, the whole thing is a joke.
Yeah.
So
yeah, whenever you see a 1%, you know, occurrence, it's probably like 10%. It's like with statins, they say the muscle pain is like 3%, and then doctors out in the field are saying it's more like 15 to 18%. Yeah, it's a joke. So as soon as I see one case study in the literature, I go, oh, that's important. You know, that's something that could be happening in more cases. So
it looks like Joe dropped off, but we will continue. He'll come back. He's got weird internet sometimes.
Okay.
How did you get into doing this in the first place, naturopathic medicine and going that route? Did you know when you were, you know, teen in college, like, I want to be a naturopathic doctor, or how did that come about?
It's a funny story. It's one I've told a lot of times. So I was, as a kid, I was playing the team sports, and I didn't realize at the time as a kid, I didn't really like team sports that much. I was much more of an individual sport kind of kid, but I really liked the training. Like, I started lifting weights at like 11 in my room, little 5-pound dumbbells and curls and presses and jumping.
I had those in my garage.
Yeah, the old Kmart concrete ones.
Oh, I remember those, yeah.
I had my dad's old barbell and dumbbell set with like the weight, like barbell, like dumbbells that you could change the weights on.
Yeah.
It was a huge pain in the ass, but it's much easier than having a whole rack of them. But he had this box of them in the garage. They were probably from like the 60s, I would guess. But
yeah, my brother had those too. I used to use his.
I'd stand, you know, in the mirror and do bicep curls.
The red and blue ones.
Yeah, red, blue, like this weird, like gold tan color.
Yes.
You do bicep curls in the mirror.
Yep. Yeah, of course you did.
So you were doing bicep curls no, you started lifting around 11, you said?
Yeah. So I was training in my room, and but then that led to eventually my first job was in a gym. I was like the night janitor at 16 years old, and then that turned into becoming a personal trainer. And then personal training, you know, once you're into bodybuilding and personal training enough, then you start learning about nutrition, right? Which then I went to college and I started in mechanical engineering. I did mechanical engineering for the first year and a half. Realized that crowd was not my crowd, and that when I heard about 60 to 80-hour work weeks and cubicles, I was like,
what was that's a weird thing, Mike. I think Dr. Smith's like the third or fourth person that was a mechanical engineer before they got into.
Yeah, at least the third. I think Jason Prahl.
Jordan Reisner was another one.
Jordan was an engineer. Steve Wright was another type of engineer of some kind.
Crazy.
Yeah, we've had at least three, probably 4 or 5. I think Chris Kelly.
Chris Kelly too. Yeah.
Was maybe a computer scientist. Terea Rodriguez, engineer, pilot. Yeah. Computers. I don't know
about the way your brain
analytical mind
lends itself to you know, helping people get healthy.
How many years did you do that schooling for? 1, 2?
Well, I think I did mechanical engineering for a year and a half or 2 years, and I was pulling like a 3.8 in it. I just realized that it wasn't for me, and it was funny because I was in undergrad, and I thought, I switched schools. I switched, you know, colleges, and I switched majors, or I was planning on it. And the funny thing was, I saw this book title. It was called "Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow." And I never read the book, I just saw the title and I went, okay, that makes sense.
So wait, hold on. So this is the first thing you went to school for was to be a mechanical engineer. So that was like kind of right out of high school.
Yes.
And you went all the way through to undergraduate school.
Well, I mean, I did it for the first 2 years of undergrad.
Oh, okay, I got you.
A year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
And then I switched colleges, and I was going to switch majors, and then I was trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And the easy thought I did was I thought, well, what do I do in my spare time? Because that's probably what I love to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was working out and reading about working out.
Yeah.
So I thought, there's no major in working out. So
it should be.
At the U of A, they had physiology.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, that's about the closest I can get. So I went into physiology, basically got my pre-med degree, and then I got a split minor in chemistry and nutrition. And then after I got out of school, I didn't know what to do. I even applied to the U of A to get a physiology master's, and like I never got turned down in educational stuff until like now. And then until that time, and then they said no, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I ended up working I tried physical therapy technician. I did a short stint while I was in undergrad as an athletic trainer student, a student athletic trainer, and then I ended up working in a vitamin store. So as I'm working in a vitamin store,
that's a rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
So I saw these books by NDs, and I started reading about them on the internet and whatever, and then I learned about the correspondence course, naturopathic doctors, that there was like, 15 hours of classes you could have an ND or whatever, and I was like, that's not something I'm interested in. My dad was a dentist, so I always kind of thought about medicine, but I didn't want to be an MD, and I definitely didn't want to be a dentist after I saw my dad go through all that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the nutrition store. I see the NDs like not really into it, didn't know if they were real or not, and then all of a sudden my boss puts up a poster on the side of the fridge that says like SCNM, Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, and they're in the white coats and stuff, and I look them up online, and I'm like, in Arizona they're real doctors, like they can prescribe,
okay.
they can inject, they can do this stuff. I was like, sounds pretty legit to me. So since I had all my grad school stuff ready, like I applied, boom.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the time I found out about the school to the time I was in it was 5 weeks.
Oh wow!
So
I don't think people realize that there's such a discrepancy between states and the way it's regulated. Some states it's licensed, some states it's not. Like you said, some states it's a 15-hour course, and all of a sudden you're an ND.
Yeah, I mean you can buy the certificate online, right? You can just go and buy it.
Sure.
ND certificate, and I mean I'm not saying there's not good practitioners out there who have, there's some correspondence course people who are doing very good work.
Mm-hmm.
And with what I'm doing now, I kind of almost look at it and I go, other than the laser therapy, I mean, to do the hair analysis, I don't know that I necessarily have to be an ND and have the license, but in a lot of people's minds, it does give me, kind of more credence and credibility and that stuff. And I have a lot bigger background. I can do acupuncture, I can do injections, I can, we were running IVs out of the office for a while, so I can do some of the bigger gun stuff.
Right.
But I don't know that that's always the right or necessary approach. I think a lot of people want things done to them. They don't want to change what they're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I do now is asking people to change what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has the patience for that. And the other thing is, people will pay more to have you do stuff to them.
Right.
They won't pay as much to do the work themselves. So
sure.
It's a financial consideration and all that. But anyway, so yeah, I went to school up there, and then that's basically I spent 4 years up in Phoenix, and then moved back to Tucson, and now took me a couple years to figure out. I went through the phases that I think a lot of NDs go through. You go through the Candida phase, you go through the heavy metals phase, you go through these other little phases until you figure out that when you go through those phases, it's like you want to diagnose everything as being that problem.
Right.
Everything is Candida, right?
Everything's a nail when you're
Magnesium.
Magnesium helps a lot of things. I think we all know that.
I'm not going to name names, but there's a certain place on the internet where you can go and all problems resolve
solved by magnesium.
Exactly.
Yes, but I tried the the nano magnesium. Everybody in my family, it made them so irritable, and they were like, "Oh, it's just detox from the magnesium." I'm like, I take other magnesiums, topical, all that stuff never happens.
Yeah.
And anyway, but yeah, the magnesium thing. I mean, I will actually put on people's treatment plans that like topical magnesium, whatever one they want to do, is like a make or break item. If they don't do it, they're not going to get as far. If they try to just do the pills, that's not going to happen. So magnesium, I'm huge on magnesium. Does it fix everything? That's ludicrous. Like, I have people who, I remember when I was in the early laser days working with another chiro and the first laser company I worked with, and they would say laser can fix anything physical if you just give it enough treatments. And my BS meter went off. I was like, no.
I have a shattered femur. Let's get that laser out.
Exactly.
Well, I had a woman come in with a compression fracture of her thoracic vertebra. She did it while she was paddling on a surfboard, and I'm kind of like, I don't understand how that happened. I don't really need to. But I mean, one treatment with my old laser system, and I mean, she was like 90% of the pain. It's not going to make the compression fracture go away, but somehow my opinion of what happened was that it somehow reset the pain receptors. That sure, it can be squashed, but it doesn't have to hurt. I mean, one of the realizations that the human body can have all sorts of structural imbalances and problems going on can happen to anybody. It doesn't mean it has to hurt. I mean, how many people have scoliosis each day and walk around and don't hurt? Or they say that like 40% of people have some kind of disc problem in their spine, but 40% of people aren't walking around with sciatica. So that's kind of one of the. I mean, we would like theoretical perfect structure. Is that happening? That's like having somebody have the perfect diet. Which what is that? What is
right. First, you have to figure out what that is.
So it's kind of like working with each person where they're at and figuring out how to move them forward. And some people are ready to do that. Some people aren't, as we all know. Some people really just want to see doctors just to tell their friends they're seeing doctors.
Right.
But that's how I got to this. I remember my dad telling me when I was young, he said, I don't really ever see you working for somebody. And at the time I was like, no, I could do that because when you're 16, what other choice do you have, right? You're going to be working for somebody. Except nowadays, now that the internet's out there, there's kids doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But as I got out of school, I realized that I needed to work for somebody. Actually, after I did a short stint as a kind of a more aesthetic ND working in a mall aesthetics place. And that was like the early, it was a really good experience. It was the early sell my soul, realize that no way in hell can I ever do this again, and get out. And then figure out what I really want to do. So
I don't know if I missed this. How long ago was that you...
This was like when I was right out of school. This was like 2006.
Okay.
I was doing Botox. I was doing like this horrible, they called it plasma portrait regeneration, where it was actually the way I understood it was like a puff of nitrogen that was ignited right above the skin, and it would basically, in a certain way, give a very controlled burn to the skin so that then the collagen underneath would push out.
Oh, jeez.
And I mean, these people would look like, their faces would look like babies' butts, right? After the 10 days where they were really not supposed to go outside because they looked like a burn victim.
Oh my God.
And they had to put like, petroleum type jelly on their face and all this. And then the funny thing about it was they would come out of it and their skin would have this kind of pinkish hue, like new skin, and they'd be very smooth and it would look great. The problem is now their face doesn't match their neck.
Oh yeah.
And there was something about it. Like the first person I saw was the guy who owned the company, or owned the chain of these things. And I looked at him and I was like, something's just not right about his face. And it just looked like he had something done, and it looked kind of weird, like a baby face on an old guy. And
that's not creepy at all.
we had to give people oral pain medication, sedatives, and then basically do nerve blocks all over their entire face, and they would still flinch when you would do the treatment. I had a woman, the only woman I did, I could only stomach it once. I did it once myself, and immediately after that I said, I'm never doing that again, because the come down from the adrenaline from like actually intentionally causing pain to another human being was so, it did not work. I told him I wasn't going to do it anymore. The woman came back in 10 days after her healing had kind of gone along, and she says, that was the worst pain I've ever went through, and I'll gladly do it again in 5 years.
No kidding.
And I was okay.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, I told them I wouldn't do that procedure anymore, and they were like, okay, here's $10,000 knocked off your pay, and I was like, oh, that's cool, fine, whatever.
So that was the first thing you did after naturopathic school. Is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Face torture.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And and then we had somebody quit, and then I'm having to do like the peels.
The chemical peels, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, the day they ended up letting go of me because of various things, and they didn't even tell me. They told me over email. I'm like, wow, you guys are classy.
Isn't that literally just burning the first layer of skin off?
The chemical peel, yeah, it's kind of the same thing as the plasma.
And this is in Arizona?
This was in Tucson, yeah. I joked that I was a mall doctor for a short period of time.
Mall doctor.
That
was the option for naturopaths 10 years or so ago.
Well, there was in Tucson. The thing about Tucson, I tell people, like, if you're going to become a naturopathic doctor, you need to know that you're probably going to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
If you want to work for a company, you're going to be moving. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that they necessarily want to hire somebody fresh out of school who doesn't even know how to deal with people. So people going to naturopathic school and thinking they're going to come out and just have a job,
right?
I tell them, don't plan on that. So we ended up starting my practice. My wife she was an operations manager helping have you guys ever heard of the Little Gym?
No.
Like little kids. It's like little kids gymnastic, movement stuff. Anyway, she worked for them. She helped them open. She would basically take a franchisee from the day they bought it until the day of opening. Mm-hmm. And walk them through every step and help them with the lease arrangements and all that stuff. So she's like she does everything except the medicine in terms of helping with setup. And then we have Julie, our amazing office manager here. And so it's basically like a 3-person operation. And it's going quite well.
Right, that's great. But that's the path. That's the path people need to kind of wrap their heads around if they're going to naturopathic school. They're probably going to be opening up their own practice.
Yeah, I would generally suggest. I mean, I tell people this. I say, you go and work in a practice, in a real practice, not work at the school where it's like fantasy land, and they're getting paid like $23,000 a year to when they have new doctors teaching not doctors. I'm like, they haven't even been on the real world yet. So I don't like the residency thing that they have going on because they haven't been on the real world and treated. But anyway, I tell people, go work in a practice first, a real practice, so you can see how things are done. Yeah. And the time commitment and the involvement and all that, so you understand what you're getting into. Don't just jump out and start your own practice. I mean, I worked in the laser therapy practice that I ended up buying. I worked in that he gave me free rent for a year.
Oh, wow.
Because he knew how hard it was to start before I bought the practice from him. And then the laser practice helped support the naturopathic practice to get on its feet and get running. I mean, it's not an easy thing, especially in Tucson. It's much harder than in Phoenix. Phoenix has much more knowledge of naturopathic doctors.
So it's more accepted. Like, you feel it's more accepted in Phoenix than it is in Tucson.
Yeah, the schools there, they've just got more marketing going on and other stuff like that. So. Sure. Yeah, and people will try.
Like in the past 10 years that there's been a shift, like people are moving more towards naturopaths, more towards functional medicine, and less away from medical allopathic approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Tucson's a pretty weird little spot, though, isn't it? I've never been to Tucson. We lived in northeastern Arizona for a couple of years ago, and my wife's been to Tucson, and she said it's like a pretty funky, weird. She loves it. She thinks it's a cool little town, but it's not like a lot of other towns in Arizona, she said. Whatever that means.
I mean, there's a funny little movement, kind of a saying in Tucson of keep Tucson shitty, and this is actually like a saying here. And it's like people drive from the airport here and they see a lot of for rent signs and all that stuff, and it's a very strange thing. It's like a small town that wants big town amenities,
right?
But they don't want to pay for it. And they refuse to build a freeway through town. The freeway into I-10 kind of goes around the outside of the. I mean, I've been here my entire life. I like it. I wouldn't have come back here if I didn't like it. But it's strange. It's different. Yeah, definitely different than anything else in the state. Yeah.
Yeah. And the most unique place in Arizona I've been is Flagstaff, as far as towns go, that are different than the rest of Arizona. But she said Tucson. but it's extreme hot there, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're usually anywhere 10 degrees, 15 degrees cooler than Phoenix, which is still hot.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was cooler than Phoenix because it's south of Phoenix quite a
It's
ways.
still Arizona.
Yeah, it's still Arizona. We generally.
You had an elevation there?
We're 2,500.
Oh, that makes a lot of difference. Phoenix, I think, is more lower.
Yeah, we're like 2,000, 2,500 if I recall correctly, and it does. The nice thing about here, I mean, so because I went to NAU for a year and a half. That was my first undergrad, and then I've obviously lived here, and then I did Phoenix for med school. So I've kind of done all three. The greatest thing about Tucson versus Phoenix in terms of temperature is we actually cool off at night, and Phoenix, because it's like
an oven.
Well, the pizza analogy, it's like all that concrete holds in the heat from the day, and then it comes out at night. I remember driving back to Phoenix one night, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm driving, and I see one of those temperature signs for like a bank or whatever, and it's 100 degrees at 10 o'clock at night.
Jeez.
I mean, you try to have parties in med school, and you can't have everybody inside, and so they go outside to chat, and everybody's just sitting there just sweating, and it's just normal. You just get used to it. You just sweat.
When we moved out here, we stopped in Yuma for the night. As was our stopping point. I went to go pick up food at, I don't know what time it was, but it was September and it was dark out, so like 8:30 maybe. Yeah. And it was 106 on my car thermometer. Now, car thermometers aren't exactly that accurate, but it's like 106 degrees out at nighttime in this place. Why does anyone live here?
Yuma is a good question. I don't know why anybody lives there, honestly.
That's what everyone in Arizona says about Yuma. Yeah. So, sorry, Yuma. But cool, man. Yeah, I don't know. Joe, you got any more?
We covered a lot of ground. I want to talk. You wrote a book a while back with old friend Matt Stone.
Yes.
Which I really enjoyed. It was solving the Palio Equation, right?
Yes.
So that was originally your idea to write that book?
Well, so I had an idea. I'm kind of a product of one of the phases I went through was the paleo, low carb. I did the paleo zone. So of course I was not only doing paleo, but I was restricting calories.
Right.
Paleo, low carb zone, CrossFit.
That's the trifecta.
Yeah, right. Well, no, actually, no. I have a history of doing this. See, I was a vegetarian triathlete in undergrad.
Okay.
Congratulations on surviving that.
Right. I mean, I had the worst fever I've ever had. I was just weak as piss, and thank you for surviving. Yeah, until finally one day I go to the gym. So I was working in the gym at the time, and a guy I worked with, he's like, "Hey man, your cheeks are looking kind of sunken in." And as guys, we often don't see ourselves. Guys tend to see ourselves as better than we actually look, and women often have the opposite. And I thought I looked fine because I always looked in the mirror straight on. And then I start turning my face, and I'm like, "Oh my God." And I think that next day I had a hamburger, and it was all over after that. But that was like, so imagine I'm 6 feet tall. Right now I'm about 206. I was 6 foot 168 pounds as a vegetarian triathlete. And then of course I kind of go a couple years just training, and then I get into the CrossFit thing. I mean, I helped co-found the first CrossFit gym in Arizona. That's how long I've been. Wow. So, I mean, we were like the 33rd affiliate. And do I do CrossFit anymore? No. Do I recommend it? Not in general, unless I knew the coach and I knew what they were doing. But, that whole low-carb paleo CrossFit, what I wanted to do with the book was I had come out of that. And after working with Matt Stone and working with nutrition and all that stuff, I wanted to help people who had broken themselves doing that, to be able to pull themselves out of the ashes and fix themselves, and still be able to exercise and then figure out things that are affecting their sleep, and figure out how to eat to stop, that was Matt's part, but how to eat to help stop restricting. And I brought him on the project to help with the nutrition part and the stress part, because I'd read his work and I just loved it, and I wanted to, since I was a nobody at that time, I wanted a co-author who could pull people. And we talked to Victory Belt Publishing, who does a lot of paleo books. Yeah. And they jumped on board, and it seemed it came together pretty well, and it's helped a lot of people. The Amazon reviews are really good, and it was writing a book. It's funny. I remember a guy when I was in undergrad telling me, "Don't ever write a book to make money."
Yeah.
because the book will not bring in the money. It's the things that the book allows you to do that helps you to get into.
Sure.
And help make the money. And I was like, oh, he was totally right.
Yeah, it also forces you to really deep dive on this stuff, and you know, it's kind of what it did for me. Is it really forced me to you got to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When you read a book. I guess you don't have to. I shouldn't say that, but you should.
Well, you know, you gotta really, when you're going to write something, you know, you want to be able to say, here's why I said that.
Right. Right.
And I mean, one of the things I really pride myself on that I have clients often tell me this is they say that what I say makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, good, because if it doesn't make sense to me, I can't say it.
Right. Right.
And that's sometimes I just tell people you got to try it, see if it works. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works. Some people it works for, and some people it doesn't. You won't know until you try it. But you know, we don't. When we realize how little we actually know, like in a hard manner about the human body, then it becomes much easier to deal with when you say, I don't know everything.
Sure. And it's refreshing to hear someone say that, particularly someone who's, you know, sort of an authority like you are, who can still admit that there's so much more that we don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's even when we start talking about vitamin D and stuff, and it's like actually testing storage D versus active D. It's like doctors test the storage, they don't test the active. Well, that would be like saying to somebody, we're going to look at your checking account and never look at your savings account. Mm-hmm. And then assume we know everything about your financial situation. You go, that doesn't make any sense. Right. You can't make a full judgment based on that. So
sure.
That's and then people go, oh, that makes sense. And you go, yeah, you have to know both ends of it so you can make a good decision.
Was there any resistance from Victory Belt? Because I mean, they have, not that your book necessarily was anti-paleo. I think it was pretty balanced, but there was never any resistance or pushback from them as far as the content of the book.
Not a whole lot, because as I was relaying what this lifestyle would often do to people, I was basically diagnosing the problems that some of the big people in Victory Belt had. I was basically telling them, here's why you feel like crap and why your workouts are not going well and why you're not sleeping well and all this stuff. And they went, oh my gosh. And they're like, you just described me. And so then they were all on board after that. Sure. And I think the paleo community is coming around in terms of not being so carb phobic.
Totally. Yeah. I see more and more of the paleo quote unquote gurus eating, you know, oats and white rice and white potatoes and so that's good.
I still think
you help nudge the needle in that direction.
Yeah. I still think people are still too afraid of fruit.
Yes.
And I
ate a strawberry and white rice today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're kind of living on the edge.
Mike, a whole strawberry? You better go run now. You better go.
I actually eat I eat a little bit of rice. I usually eat my fruit and carbs in the evening.
Big trouble. No.
Yeah,
I work out in the afternoon. I find that I do much better throughout the day when I eat a protein fat type meal in the first meal and then work out later and then eat those things afterwards. That's my own thing I've found that makes it so I don't get cravings, I don't get crashes, I don't get any of that, and I have good performance with the training.
Yeah. I mean, it's always about finding. I've had success with several people now, and this is just what I found works for me. Like you're saying, it works for you. So the thing I hate about talking about diet is all of a sudden I'll say, and you know this, Michael, I'm sure, I say what works for me.
Yeah. And then 70 other people start to do it. It doesn't work for 20 of them, and they get pissed at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not saying this is the optimal way or anything. I'm saying that the way my schedule works and the way my physiology seems to work, that this is what works for me. But I tend to have like a light morning. I'll have cream in my coffee, and I have about 4 tablespoons of maple syrup in the morning I make a fresh lemonade with maple syrup, and I have my coffee with cream and maple syrup, and then I kind of have a couple pieces of fruit in the morning. I work out at 12:30.
You do bulletproof coffee, of course, right?
No, just cream. I do cream. No. I did the bulletproof coffee thing for a while. Oh my gosh. That was when I saw my cholesterol go through the roof, and I didn't feel any magical stuff other than I wasn't hungry. And then people started writing about, do you see the calories in this? That's why you're not hungry. And I went,
you're eating, basically drinking breakfast.
Right.
Yeah, shitload of fat for breakfast.
Yeah. And then so what I do after that is I have basically my lunch after I work out. That's where lunch starts getting a bit heavier. and then dinner is my heaviest meal, and I usually have carbs and protein and all that stuff. But so people will say, oh, so you're intermittent fasting. I'm like, no, I just eat lighter in the start of the day and I eat heavier at the end of the day. And that works for me. But actually, no, I just started doing jujitsu, and all of a sudden, the amount of I immediately within the first day or two, I went, I'm not eating enough for this. And so instead of doing just what worked for me, I said something's changed, and I have to change with it. And so now I'm figuring out how to fit that in my morning with getting the kids ready for school and all that. Because I go to a 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu class, and I run home to get the kids ready. And it's like I have 15 minutes or 30 minutes to get the kids ready to take my boy to school. And I'm like, I might have a protein shake or something when I'm so protein shaked out from my history. The
I try to stay away when I can. I like food.
For me, with the newborn, it was sort of like whatever works. Like I'm just going to eat what I can eat and when I can eat it, and so it depends on how well I sleep that night. And there are times when I'll do intermittent fasting, but I need to make sure I'm sleeping well and my stress level is relatively low. And sometimes that works for me. But.
No, I mean, the intermittent fasting thing, I joke that, like, a lot of people, they just call their intermittent fasting. I say, you know what other people would call your intermittent fasting? They call it skipping breakfast. That's, that's it.
That's pretty much it. You skip breakfast. But I've been playing around with it and doing a little research on it. Now I pretty much eat between, like, 11 and 7.
Okay.
But I'm not one of those sugar crashy type people in the morning who, if I don't eat by 9 o'clock, I'm an asshole. That happens to a lot of people, and those people should not do what I'm doing. And because it's generally a good sign if you're like biting the head off every person near you by 9 in the morning, you should eat breakfast.
That's the thing. Like you started doing jiu-jitsu, and I have a newborn. I'm up every hour to 2 hours at night. I'm not gonna intermittent fast right now.
No, and I can't do it on short sleep. If I am up late or get crappy sleep, I get really hungry in the morning, like sugary craving, like because I didn't sleep and all of that goes. But we have this awareness that we've kind of built of, okay, I feel this because of that, or I do this because of that. Teaching that to people and teaching people to be aware of those things and like to report back to you about it, like accurately, is probably the most important thing, because there's no like. I don't have this XYZ thing that I just teach every single person, and then that's the thing, and then they go do that, and then everybody wins. X might make somebody feel like crap, so let's look at Y and Z and another thing and whatever. And that awareness, people don't even realize a lot of the time. Like, I've noticed now, if I go to bed late, doing the stuff in the morning, I try to do like a morning routine, like whether it's breathing exercises or meditation or whatever it is, I'm less likely to do it. If I get crappy sleep, I wake up like, bleh, and I'm just like, screw it. Then I'm on the phone, and then I'm doing, and then the day sucks. And for me, I've noticed the catalyst for all of it is the sleep.
Right.
I need to get to bed early. I need to get good sleep, and then I kick everything's ass the next day. I can do my feeding window, to put in trendy quotes or whatever, and it's fine. I do my morning routine, and it's fine. I do all this stuff. But if I go to bed an hour late or an hour and too late, all the shit goes out the window. So for me, the trigger is the sleep. That might be different for you or for Joe or for whoever, but it's learning that. So whoever's listening, it's learning that.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway. I think what we want.
What's your thing? Like just
what's
learning
today, and it may be different tomorrow or next week or next year or whatever.
Yeah, like, last night I slept crappy. This morning I needed this, and I did this, and all right, well, let's go to bed earlier, see what happens. I make people fill out a journal, and they grumble, and it's like, well, I do it. I write things down now, and no one's making me do it, but it's that awareness is key, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good stuff. All right, well.
Hijack that a little bit.
No, it's good. It's good.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
I'm excited that I've learned that, because I used to be adamantly against intermittent fasting because I saw it destroy several female clients that I had who wanted to do like low carb, high training, intermittent fasting because they read it on the interwebs, and they destroyed themselves, and they had zero adrenal function and no thyroid. It's out the window, and all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, that must be horrible for everyone. And then we had Karan on a webinar talking about intermittent fasting for gut health, and that it really helps the microbiome and the digestive processes to give the digestive tract a break, essentially, for 12 to 16 hours at a time. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try that. And then I did, and I stopped eating breakfast and started doing like a late morning, early afternoon first meal, and I feel really good most of the time as long as I sleep. So then I had to reconsider that dogmatic belief that I had that all intermittent fasting was horrible, and now I think it's definitely a case-by-case.
Just like everything else.
Well, I think it very much the easiest thing I've gotten into the way of thinking about that is it's just yin and yang. It's like there's a time of day to be eating, there's a time of day to be not eating. There's there's a time of day to be sleeping, there's a time of day to be not sleeping. And when you start thinking about it in terms of that, like the pendulum swings become less. And I mean, the problem is you have to live in a gray area, which gray areas mean you have to make decisions.
Right.
And black and white, like ketogenic or like raw vegan, there's no decisions. They've been made for you. You eat this or you eat this, and then you start getting into the middle, and with the interwebs poking holes in everybody's ideas, then you get people who are too confused and they can't live in the gray area, and that's where intelligent people who pay attention to their bodies, they live in the gray area, and that's all they understand, that they have to make decisions. But yeah, the breakfast thing, I'll have breakfast some days, usually on the weekend. And as soon as I eat in the morning, I'm hungry, and I'm like dying by lunchtime. And I'm going, this doesn't make any sense. I eat more in the morning, and then I'm hungry at lunchtime. I don't know. But I think the big thing about the fasting is actually kind of like what I'm doing in the morning, where it's like fruit and liquid foods. Not only is it lighter, but I think the lack of protein in it. I think giving the digestion a break from protein for part of the day is a big part of the yin-yang thing that gives a lot of the benefits.
Right.
But either way, my thing now is if I'm training hard, I have to make sure that when I am eating, I get enough protein. And I just tell people it's really about the course of the day. Are you getting enough of what you need over the course of a day? And then even some people might say it's even over the course of a week. And Joe, you may notice this you may have noticed it with the 4-year-old already, but with kids, you start to notice that I'm trying to tell my wife sometimes, I'm like, so they didn't eat a lot. They didn't eat a lot today.
Yeah, no big deal.
Watch them tomorrow. Like they'll eat a lot tomorrow, and the kids balance it out. And
usually they're really intuitive with it, and we don't have to worry about it as much as for sure.
I think we do.
Yeah, I mean, my 4-year-old's a fantastic eater, and we never have to stress out about, like, if he doesn't feel like eating a certain meal or doesn't eat much, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. He's going to probably hammer 3 eggs for breakfast. You know what I mean? So we don't really have to worry about it, and it's great not to stress out about that. They'll figure it out.
My 7-year-old can eat as many tacos as I do at meals sometimes. Nice. It blows my mind. And I'm just sitting there going, she's in dance, and the thing I tell her about dance is I say, the only mistake you're going to make in dance is, I mean, she goes to like 11 hours of class a week. I say the biggest mistake you can make is to not eat enough. So I'm already starting with the message of like, don't undereat.
Yeah.
And if I ever hear any of that crap from any of her instructors, I'm going to go off the wall.
How about not eating?
Yeah, right. Like, you got to have a certain body type to.
You could trim down a little bit, and it would make this look longer. I'll go off the wall. What I want to do.
That's so damaging.
Oh yeah, I mean, I want her to go see like dance shows. I can't think of any of the ones off the top of my head, but where the people in the dances are very athletic.
Yeah.
And they're doing this because I want her to see those physiques and say, this is strength, this is power, this is not having to starve yourself to look like a ballerina.
Yeah. Well, there's probably the most famous ballerina right now. I think what the hell's her name? Misty Copeland.
Misty Copeland. Yes. Yeah.
She's an athlete. She's absolutely an athlete, and does not have that traditional ballerina body. So it's a great role model.
Yeah. So just working on that with her, because my wife was actually a professional dancer for a very short time.
My wife is too. Yeah.
So, but she had a career-ending injury probably because she wasn't eating. She was overtraining and under-eating. And then she got an injury, and then it was over. And then she came back to the U of A, and then she met me, and then her life was really over after that.
That's funny.
And everything went downhill.
Yeah.
But she got laser therapy, and her injury got better.
Well, actually, it was her wrist that she went and got the light cure done at local, Canyon Ranch here locally. and she came. It was just not healing. I tried my old laser on it. It wasn't doing anything. She gets like a couple treatments. 2 treatments later, she's like out of the brace.
Wow.
And I was like, that's impressive. That's something that I have not seen before. And I even sent my mom and my brother to 2 people in town who use a different class 4 laser, and saw both of their stuff improve that my laser didn't. My old laser didn't help. And I just went, okay, I got to get one of these, because this is, the more power seemed to get over humps that other stuff couldn't. And I've even been using it on my medial epicondylitis, which I get from my gymnastics type training, a lot of straight arm work. And within 2 treatments, I'm like, oh, I have to like search for the pain. I have to really try to find it now. And I'm going, 2 treatments. Wow. Because this has been going on for like a year. It doesn't really get in the way of my workouts. I'm sure it does somehow, but now it's fixing it, and it's great. So,
well, I think it's safe to say this is the first time we've gone from talking, about hair analysis to jiu-jitsu to ballet in one podcast. So congratulations.
And lasers.
And lasers, yeah, of course.
I actually just went through some not so enjoyable laser treatments. I've been doing laser tattoo removal.
Oh.
With a Q-switch laser.
Okay.
That sucks. That is not awesome in any way. It's cool to watch, I guess, because you get these glasses and you can look at it, and it's cool to watch, but I think it'd be way cooler to watch it be done to someone else.
Yes.
And it smells like burning skin, because you're burning your skin. And then you get these huge blisters that stand like this far off of your arm, which are gnarly. I've done 4 sessions on it. 4 removal sessions. So, yeah, don't make stupid decisions. Rule number 1.
I didn't mention that, but I did some of that at the aesthetic place I was at. They had all the lasers. They had the laser hair removal. They had the IPL for the skin.
You know what kind of laser they used for the tattoo?
Oh my gosh! I mean, 10 years ago, no. The Q-switch sounds familiar. I'm not sure. It
was. It's awful. The bright side is it only lasts a few minutes. Like if a tattoo took like 3 or 4 hours to do, the removal sessions are like 3-4 minutes. But it's 3 to 4 minutes of not awesome, enjoyable things. But every time we say lasers, I'm picturing sharks with.
Oh right, sharks with frickin' laser beams.
Sharks with frickin' laser beams. No, we've gone off the rails, so you should just.
Which is great. Which is exactly what we wanted.
Sharks, laser beams, tattoos, shoulders, ballet, jiu-jitsu.
Awesome. So I don't know if there's anything else we could have possibly covered, but I'm sure we'll have.
And the puppy just got up, so I got to go. There's going to be pee on the floor.
I do want to. I do. We'll definitely have you back, because I do want to get into some of the other things like vaccines and things like that. And that's some real.
Well, the vitamin D stuff, vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, how those all play together. I would love to talk about that.
We would love to have you on to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do a webinar or something like that for sure. Excellent. Dr. Garrett Smith, thanks so much for hanging out with us and having a really interesting conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, Take it easy, man. We'll be in touch soon.
Excellent.
Thanks.